it's Kim at Foggy Bonnet. I'm sharing a sketch today to help you get rid of your scraps of paper. I don't know about you, but I tend to have a lot of scraps about, and this sketch is especially useful for using smaller pieces. I'm going to leave this on the screen for just a second. You can take a screenshot of it, and I'll be talking about the dimensions as I create a few samples using this sketch in today's video. It starts with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base, and then these are the list. This is the list of pieces, and they're labeled A, B, C, D, and E. Let's see, I'm going to show you one of the cards I made earlier using this sketch. Here it is. So this is the Euro Peach paper, a few scraps of that. And I'll just talk about the pieces as I go through it. But I want to point out that this sentiment from the bottom of my heart is from the Ornate Thanks. I have bundle on here, but it's no longer bundled. It's the Ornate Thanks stamp set. It's a nice long sentiment, and I liked how it worked across the front of this card. And then on the inside, the little thank you is from a different set. It's from the Pansy Patch stamp set. So this stamp set is still available in the new 21-22 annual catalog, the Ornate Thanks. And then this is a new stamp set from the 21-22 annual catalog. And that's the thank you that I used. Well, let me just jump in here. I think that's the best way, right? Just show you how I make these cards. So the first one I have to show you is using scraps from Fine Art Floral Designer Series paper. We're starting with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. This is Pool Party cardstock. Then the next layer, layer A, is a little bit smaller, and it's 4 by 5 1/4. So what I did on this card is I took advantage of the built-in texture in this Designer Series paper. This is from the Fine Art Floral. I have loved this paper from the minute I saw it. Tons of texture. And it's nice when you have texture on that first layer, layer A. Just gives it a little something extra. So I just use the texture it's just visual texture. It's not tactile. You can't feel it. It just looks like texture for layer A. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to my card base. And I'm just using Stampin' Seal Plus for this. Nothing heavy duty. This is really a very basic and simple card format. I'm going to turn up my lights here. Like I said, it's intended to use up scraps. Alrighty. I'm just going to center this on the card front. You can pop different pieces of this up on dimensionals if you want to, and when I show you the other examples of this card that I made, I'll show you, I'll point that out where I've popped things up. So the next layer I'm doing is layer B, and B is 3 by 4 1/4. 3 by 4 1/4. And it's just going to get placed on top of layer A, and I put it down and to the left and towards the bottom. I don't center it, I put it down here just for a little more visual interest. So this is layer B. I'm going to put it down and to the left. Then layer C measures 1 1/8 by 3. 1 1/8 by 3. And my layer C is, I think this is Bumblebee that I used. Pretty sure this is Bumblebee. And it's going to be placed underneath D. So D is going to cover up the end of that. And I put it kind of helps me to put both pieces on to kind of figure out where they go. But I put this about, oh, I don't know, a little more than 1/8 of an inch from the edge of that layer A, and then about 1 inch from the bottom, okay? And then layer D, which we'll put on next, will cover the end of it. So I'm just going to adhere this. I have little fuzzies on the edge of this piece. Some cardstocks make more fuzzy edges than others. I don't know why, but some are just like that. Also, if you need to change the blade in your trimmer, you'll start getting kind of ragged edges, but I don't think that's the case here. Okay, so that was layer C. Then layer D measures 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches, and it's going to go right here on top of that layer I just put down. And again, about, I don't know if you can see that, I'm not putting it right up against the edge. I'm leaving about a little more than 1/8 of an inch gap there, and about the same between the bottom and the bottom of layer B, which is this layer. And it's not, you know, this is not exact science here, I just found that that was kind of a pleasing placement when I was making these. All right, so there we go. And then the sentiment, I already stamped my sentiments tonight, but I have these on a 1/2 inch by 4 inch piece of cardstock. And this one's a little bit shorter, actually. I cut it a little bit shorter and I put it over here to the left. Oh, and this is a different sentiment. A little hello from me to you. That is actually also from the Pansy Patch. A little hello from me to you. All right, so this I think I will pop up on dimensionals. It's the only layer I'm going to pop up on this card. So I'm going to turn it over, and that way I can tell where I can put my dimensionals. Like, I don't want to put one way out here on the end because that's a little uneven because of the layers. So I'm going to keep my dimensionals here. And that will support it just fine. It's okay if the very end out here doesn't have anything behind it. Okay. All right, a little hello from me to you, and I'm just gonna kind of shove this over to the left and leave a little of that yellow showing on the bottom and the right. Just like that. How simple is that? And how cute, right? And of course, since all of these papers are from the same pack, everything coordinates color-wise, and so you can safely mix patterns when you're doing that. And then the solid color is a color that appears in this pattern paper. So that's the first one. Let's make another one. These are fun. So this next one that I'm going to make, again, it starts with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base, and this is Petal Pink. It's the same pack of paper, the Fine Art Floral, but I chose different pieces. And for layer A, it's this is the 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece. I ran this through the cut and embossing machine using the, let's see, this is the painted texture 3D embossing folder. Okay, and it looks like, to me it looks like somebody just spackled a wall and didn't sand it, but I love this texture. So I'm just going to adhere this to my card base. Centered. And I always check, I don't always, but I try to remember to check if there's an edge of the card showing, like one side or the other. Quite often when you fold these ends up being a slightly longer. You want the longer side on the top. That way you don't see the edge of the bottom layer sticking out from behind there. And I have a little bit of a rough edge here. Just going to use my bone folder to try to smooth that out a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to center this. So I've got my texture there. And then for layer B, which is 3 by 4 1/4, this is layer B. Am I still on camera with this? It will go down here and to the left. And again, I'm not popping anything up on dimensionals for this one. And layer C, this is another piece of the paper from the same paper pack. It's looks painted with, looks like Night of Navy on there. So that's layer C, and I'm just going to grab layer D just so I can kind of get my placement the way I want it. Oops. Looks pretty good. You can see how quickly these go together. Once you have pieces cut, what takes me the longest is just deciding which patterns to use. Anybody else like that? I play around and make a few changes, change my mind a few times, and then, but once I decided which papers to use and cut these out, they go together in minutes. Okay, so I'll put that one there. Oops, I'm getting to the end of this. I think actually I'm out. I'm just going to switch over to my liquid glue. That works too. There we go. And then this sentiment is that from the bottom of my heart sentiment. Okay, and it is 4 inches wide, so it's going to go all the way across, and I will put this on dimensionals. I like to pop that sentiment up just to give it a little extra, I don't know, oomph. How's that? A little extra emphasis. So there's 2, and what did that take me? 10 or 15 minutes? I don't know, I lose track of time, but really super simple once you get your pieces cut out. I have one more here to make, and I have a little variation for this one. The background is not textured on this one, it's just going to be a smooth background. Layer A I'm talking about. I did not put any texture on this, but I'm going to add an extra layer in. And this layer, I forgot to measure this earlier. This layer is 2 inches by 5. So it's a little bit shorter than layer A, okay? And I'm going to adhere it on layer A. Can you see that? So that it's even, there's an even distance from the top, the left, and the bottom edges. So I'm just going to adhere that. And this paper is Europeach. It's from the Europeach paper pack, which is probably one of my favorites. I don't know. Every time I use a paper, I say, this is my favorite. They're so pretty. And of course, they're all new still to me. Just starting to use all the new papers. But I like the nice soft colors in this one. Alright, so I've added an extra layer, and from here it just goes together the same as the rest of them. So we have layer A, and then I added an extra, we'll just call that A part 2, and then I'm going to put on layer B right over top of that. And again, Stampin' Up! Just does such a great job coordinating their papers. There's a little bit of that same blue in this flower, and there's the petal pink in this also. So everything just works together. You don't even need to think about it. It just works. So I'm going to adhere this. And I'm going to keep it down and to the left again, just like I did on the other cards. Okay, and then for this piece, for C, instead of a solid piece of cardstock, I chose a near solid from the same paper pack from Europeach. It's mostly green, so it kind of reads as a solid. And I think before I go any further, I'm going to adhere this to my card front. And this one I am going to pop up on dimensionals, just to make it a little extra special. And then after I finish this one, I'll show you a few other examples that I made between yesterday and today, as I was playing with this. And then this piece is D. And then finally the sentiment piece. I'm just smoothing out any burrs that they happen when you use a trimmer that has a sliding blade like we have. You can just smooth them out. And I'm going to pop the sentiment up also. And I'm just lining up the right edge and the left edge of this sentiment strip with layer A, because they're both the same width. Okay, there we go. Super easy sketch to work with. A nice way to use up your scraps. And you can see we've made 3 cards tonight. And this was my example I showed you. And then I wanted to show you something else I was doing with these as I was playing with them, is I was doing some torn paper. I like the torn paper edges. And I did some stamping on the background of that textured background and just dipped the edges in my ink pad to get a little bit of an outline. Wrapped this one with some baker's twine. So you can tear your paper if you want to. And this was one where I was just playing with embossing paste and some stamping and then some inking and tearing, and I love how this turned out. There's just a lot of texture going on here. And this was another distressed one that I made with some torn paper edges and some stamping. This stamp, by the way, is from Forever Fern stamp set, and it makes perfect little splatters. And I did some inking with Blushing Bride, which is what this paper is, this pink in the background, and then some basic gray to darken this up. Give this sketch a try to use up some of the scraps in your stash, and be sure to incorporate your favorite techniques, add in layers, take out layers, do paper tearing, inking, whatever you like. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel so that you can find future videos easily. Be sure to check out the description below where you will find a link to my blog site, And you'll find other card making ideas there, as well as the opportunity to sign up for my bi-weekly newsletter. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Kim Ray. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.